impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre el liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo de lo público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral, que el cierre de brechas que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement "quédate en casa", que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
more than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to our member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, the Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Center's program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the CTOUR, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre el liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación.
ahí no, eso se quedó bien.
Puedes empezar en orden.
Ok, probemos con los intérpretes. De nuevo desde arriba, por favor. El canal de inglés.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to all member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. adjusting our portfolio of existing projects. 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs. And 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures. Tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Center's program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the C2, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre el liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo de lo público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral, que el cierre de brechas que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces, nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement "quédate en casa", que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
Good morning, everyone. Madam Chair, with your permission, we will now confirm quorum so we may start the meeting. Madam Chair.
Thank you, SG.
Good morning, everyone. This is a hybrid meeting and we have delegations connected off our headquarters and we have a number of delegations here in the room with us. Having done both the audio and the video test this morning, and including those we have visiting us, attending here from headquarters, we have the following delegations: Antigua and Barbuda, Argentina, Belize, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, the United States of America, Guatemala, Jamaica, Mexico, Panama, Paraguay, the Dominican Republic, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, Uruguay, and Venezuela. We have quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary General. Good morning. I'm pleased to declare open this protocol meeting of the Permanent Council, which has been convened to receive the Prime Minister of Belize, the Honorable John Antonio Briceño. The order of business is approved. I invite all meeting participants to rise as we welcome the Prime Minister of Belize, the Honorable John Antonio Briceño. I invite all meeting participants to take their seats. Prime Minister John Briceño and the distinguished members of his accompanying delegation, the Honorable Eamon Courtenay, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Immigration of Belize, the Honorable Anthony Marler, Minister of Tourism, Ambassador Lynn Raymond Young, Permanent Representative of Belize to the OAS, and the delegation accompanying the Prime Minister, distinguished permanent and interim representatives of the member states, Mrs. Ana Luisa Castro, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama, Mr. Luis Almagro, Secretary General, Ambassador Nestor Mendez, Assistant Secretary General, distinguished permanent observers, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to greet the Prime Minister of Belize, the Honorable John Briceño, on behalf of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States, and to offer him a most cordial welcome to this House of the Americas. In 1993, Prime Minister Briceño, a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, was elected to the National Assembly as the representative for the Orange Walk Central Division. In 1994, he contested the municipal elections in Orange Walk Town and served as a member of the Town Council for 2 terms from 1994 to 2001. Prime Minister Briceño is the 5th Belizean politician to serve as Prime Minister of Belize. He was Deputy Prime Minister of the People's United Party from 1998 to 2007. And served as leader of the party and leader of the opposition from 2008 to 2011, and then in 2016. Honorable Prime Minister, you have an admirable and long-standing record of service to your country and your people. Since joining our organization in 1991, Belize has played an instrumental role in our deliberations and in advancing key thematic issues on our agenda. We express our most sincere appreciation to you, Honorable Prime Minister, for visiting us today as a representative of both the Caribbean and Central American subregions. Your country is known as a beacon of democracy, with a strong commitment to promoting human rights and development, and is a proud custodian of the ancient Mayan culture. Belize, home to the world's second largest barrier reef, impressive jungles, and some of the most scenic beaches in the world, is naturally steadfast in its support of environmental protection efforts. As your country celebrated its Independence Day only a few days ago, the Permanent Council is honored by your presence today and considers it a testament to Belize's commitment to multilateralism and to the work of the OAS. Honorable Prime Minister, OAS member states thank you for your visit today. Following the order of business of this protocol meeting, at this time, I am pleased to offer the floor to Mr. Luis Almagro, Secretary General of the Organization of American States. Mr. Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam.
Prime Minister Briceño, it is a great honor to welcome you to the Hall of the Americas with your delegation today. Your presence is a show of Belize's commitment to the inter-American system. Dear friends, colleagues, dear Minister, we are celebrating with you and your delegation the commemoration on September 10th of the 224th anniversary of the Battle of St. George's Key and the 21st of September, which was the 41st anniversary of Belize's independence. We would like to congratulate you for the administration of your country during the most critical period of the pandemic, and you were also recognized by PAHO for immediately implementing programs locally and nationally. Also, congratulations for preserving the environment in Belize, and this Belize is the home of many natural wonders, including a coral barrier reef, which is 300 kilometers along the coast. And this is a reef system that is the largest in the Northern Hemisphere with many different habitats and small islands. And for Belize, as other Caribbean countries, climate change is an existential threat with rising sea levels, coastal erosion, and natural disasters that are more frequent and more intense. In the 1990s, as Minister of Natural Resources, you promoted regional initiatives aimed at environmental protection and sustainable management of natural resources. Now, in your administration, Belize is playing an important role in multilateral organizations when it comes to climate change. We think of your call to countries during the UN Conference on Climate Change, COP26. We need to get serious, was what you said. And in fact, we do need to get serious, as climate change is a major challenge for humanity. It has devastating impacts, particularly to the most vulnerable. It is increasing poverty. It is a threat to food security and the ways of life of hundreds of millions of people and generations to come. That is what you stated at COP26. And we would like to use this appeal and continue lending our voice to those who are asking for urgent actions in this area. We also want to highlight Belize's commitment to peaceful coexistence with those of different ethnic origins in a stable democracy. In Belize, they speak many languages: English, Spanish, Creole, Garifuna, and at least 3 Mayan languages, and they all sing in unison in defense of peace. As stated by Ambassador Lynn Raymond Young, the permanent representative of to the OAS, we need to share these values with strength and strengthen peace and security. The OAS actively supports the implementation of means for building trust and confidence between Belize and Guatemala. Resolving the territorial dispute peacefully is vital. And the OAS is promoting contact between communities and verifying violations of signed agreements. And our work on the 215-kilometer adjacency zone is part of a civilian peace mission. And the OAS office has managed to maintain peace since its establishment in 2003. No clashes have taken place between the militaries of the 2 countries. And the Culture of Peace program provides students from Belize and Guatemala with professional skills development. The Tames Center for Professional Development in Benque Viejo de Carmen, which I visited recently, helps young people develop professional skills and job opportunities. They are able to share their experiences and ideas, and the Pro Future program, coordinated by the Belizean Ministry of Education and the OAS, with financial support from the government of Spain, provides digital equipment as well as professional training to 11 schools in Belize, and over 200 Belizean teachers have already been trained in using new methods, and 400 students are able to now use the technology in their education process. The OAS scholarship program provides scholarships for master's and doctoral programs or postgraduate research, and on average, about 100 Belizean students a year are able to get academic credentials through these scholarships. The Belize Innovation Laboratory, created by the Americas Fund for the OAS and the University of the West Indies with support from the U.S. government, aims to promote innovation involving young people, social stakeholders, and local governments. In 2021, through the Pan American Development Foundation, we created forensic laboratories in Belize and provide training to coroners and crime investigators. With regard to refugees and people seeking asylum, we are participating in the Integral Regional Solutions Protection Program, and this promotes democracy, stability, and human rights. We will continue to work in the framework of multilateral cooperation in this area. You can be assured of strategic cooperation to seek solutions that benefit all of our countries in promotion of peace, fighting climate change, strengthening democracy, and defending human rights. This is fundamental to ensure the more rights for more people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. I now have the distinct honor to offer the floor to the Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize. Mr. Prime Minister, you have the floor, sir.
Muchas gracias, señor Secretario General Almagro. Good morning, and Council Representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, His Excellency Mr. Luis Almagro Lemes, Secretary General of the Organization of American States, His Excellency Mr. Nestor Mendez, Assistant Secretary General of the OAS, Your Excellencies, prominent representatives of the member states of the Organization of American States, honorable representatives of prominent observers, ladies and gentlemen, muy buenos días a todos. Thank you so much for your kind welcome. It is truly an honor for me to address this distinguished body on behalf of the Belizean people. My sincere thanks to Ambassador Luan Gilchrist for convening this meeting this morning. Thank you so much. To the Secretary General and the Assistant Secretary General, thanks for receiving us at the headquarters earlier this morning. In 1948, when the OAS Charter was signed, the countries of the hemisphere then committed to noble objectives. The Charter's preamble states that the signatories were, and I quote, convinced that the historic mission of America is to offer to people a land of liberty and favorable environment for the development of their personality and the realization of their just aspirations. Our forefathers set us on an ambitious journey motivated by the desire of the American peoples to live together in peace and through their mutual understanding and respect for the sovereignty of each one, to provide for the betterment of all in independence, in equality, and under law. End of quote. Not only do these foundational norms remain relevant, they actuate our minds and call us to action as we do the people's work. Madam Chair, let me assure you of Belize's firm commitment to the pillars of democracy, human rights, security, and the development as enshrined in the OAS Charter. Belize continues to be ranked among the most free and vibrant democracies in the Americas with an excellent human rights record. Our respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, free and fair elections, transparency, non-discrimination, and the rule of law is unwavering. 20 years ago, we solemnly adopted the Inter-American Democratic Charter, but today, throughout the continent, popularism and authoritarianism are alive. Geopolitical tensions threaten the rules-based order we have come to accept as permanent. The ease with which norms and principles of international law are routinely ignored has defined a new landscape characterized by deep mistrust and divisions. As we work together to resolve the democratic challenges, we must hold dear the enjoiner in our charter to promote and consolidate representative democracy with due respect for the principle of non-intervention. Belize is also committed to multilateralism. Today, the world is confronting unprecedented challenges that not only threaten the international order, but threatens mankind's very existence. Now, more than ever, the OAS, guided by its members, must continue to advocate for the principles that bind us together. Through engagement and more dialogue, we can and must resolve the political and diplomatic problems confronting us. Again, I say that it is incomprehensible that we would isolate any of the countries of the Americas at a time when we are facing such unprecedented and consequential global threats. As multilateralists, we must insist on the peaceful settlement of disputes not only in Europe, but throughout the world. We must hold sacred the principle of non-intervention in the internal affairs of nations, and we must commit unconditionally to international law. These principles drive us to condemn the illegal invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation and to call for an immediate end to that unjust war. Madam Chair, Belize gained its independence on the 21st September 1981 under the leadership of the Right Honorable George Price, the father of our nation. We celebrated our 41st anniversary of independence last week, Wednesday. In those 41 years, we have grown and developed significantly. As we develop, we remain stellar stewards of the natural treasures with which we are blessed. Belize is a world leader in the protection of its natural resources, with over a third of its land and over 20% of its marine space protected under a variety of management regimes. Our guiding principle is to maximize the contribution of our protected areas to national development and poverty alleviation, thereby putting the system on a sound and rational footing. Last year, we negotiated the first blue bond in this hemisphere. This $364 million financial transaction is the world's largest debt restructuring for marine conservation that has reduced our debt burden and generated an estimated $180 million for marine conservation. This transaction will enable us to expand our biodiversity protection zones, which includes our reefs, mangroves, and fishing spawning sites to 30% by 2026. This is crucial for the health of our ecosystem and the planet. We are proud to be pioneers in this work and to lead the way for other countries to join us as we conserve our oceans for Belize and beyond. Madam Chair, developing countries had great expectations for COP26 in Glasgow. Our hopes were dashed. Rather than committing to the 1.5 alive, we left Glasgow headed for global temperatures increase by 2.7 degrees Celsius by 2100. We will surpass the 1.5 as early as 2030. Rather than developed countries delivering on the pledge of $100 billion per year, we left Glasgow with a finance roadmap. Rather than delivering a loss and damage facility to deal with the losses and damages caused by climate change, Glasgow delivered a loss and damage dialogue. And in November, we have COP27 in Egypt and COP16 in Montreal. Both COPs present an opportunity to reverse the unsustainable path on which humanity and our planet are bound. Both COPs will require member states to make ambitious commitments backed up by clear implementation plans and financing. COP15 must agree on ambitious and effective post-2020 global biodiversity framework to take account of the economic cost of biodiversity and provide financial support to developing countries' efforts to deter biodiversity loss. COP27 must close the emission gap, augment financing for adaptation, and establish a financing facility to substantively address loss and damage. We are extremely concerned that these expectations may be jeopardized by G20 dynamics, but we cannot allow backsliding. Anything less is a failure. For SIDS and AOSIS, failure is not an option. Madam Chair, one of the most challenging problems facing our hemisphere is mass migration. People are moving to avoid poverty and crime, to escape political instability and weather-related disasters. They seek to satisfy their basic needs and to live in peace. These are basic human rights, but for far too many, these are but elusive hopes. We cannot ignore the proliferation of illegal weapons, which are making many of our communities unsafe. These weapons are being exported to our countries, and it is difficult to stop the flow because they are so easy to obtain here in the United States. Our countries are being asked to spend our scarce resources, which are better used to increase our social programs to help stop the flow of illegal drugs and human trafficking. These illegal flows are being buttressed by the flow of arms and ammunition from north to south. They go hand in hand, and we must work together to put a stop to it. Our citizens struggle with insecurity because of many of these factors. Our charter calls us to eradicate extreme poverty, which constitutes an obstacle to the full democratic development of the peoples of the hemisphere. That is our signal charge, and it is the commandment that imposes a moral duty on us to alleviate suffering wherever found. Our people deserve no less. Madam Chair, as we emerge from the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are putting in place policies to build back better and stronger. After a 16% GDP contraction in 2020, in 2021, GDP grew 9.8%, but is yet to return to pre-pandemic levels. Notwithstanding our limited fiscal space, we have tried to stimulate an economic recovery, but staying true to our social values. The Belizean economy grew by 5.3% in the first quarter of 2022, the highest level of production for any first quarter on record. By introducing innovative stimulus measures and flexibility in the banking sector, businesses survived and unemployment fell from 30% to 9.2%. However, our eternal optimism tempts us to celebrate our economic rebound, yet the reality is that we cannot truly talk of recovery because where we were before COVID is not a place where we hope to return. Weighted down by prolonged recession, battered by increasing frequent extreme weather events, stifled by costly credit and lack of access to concessional financing due to our middle income classification. We do not want to go back there. We want to progress, to move forward. We want to provide jobs for our people. We want to breathe. On a happier note, Madam Chair, I am pleased to report that the Guatemalan claim to Belize's land and insular territories and to the maritime areas pertaining to them is before the International Court of Justice. In accordance with the timetable announced by the court, Guatemala submitted its memorial to the International Court of Justice on 8 December 2020. Belize submitted its counter memorial on 3 June 2022. In our submission, Belize made a robust defense of our sovereignty over all our territory and the pertaining maritime areas in accordance with international law. Guatemala is now due to submit its reply to Belize's counter memorial by 8 December 2022, and Belize will submit our rejoinder by 8 June 2023. The court will subsequently set dates for oral hearings. Under the special agreement between Belize and Guatemala, which was signed at this great place in 2008, the parties have sworn to implement the court's decision. This will be a costly undertaking and one for which we must prepare for and seek international support. At the same time, my government believes that while the dispute is before the court, we must do everything we can to maintain cordial relations with the Guatemalan government and its people. To this, we are committed. It is important to highlight the critical role of the Office of the OAS in the adjacency zone. It is supporting the two countries to maintain their commitment under the confidence-building measures. We thank the OAS, particularly the Secretary General, for his continued commitment for this process. I wish to mention, however, that the challenges along Belize's western border, its southern and maritime borders remain. These include increases in agricultural encroachments, deforestation for cattle grazing, the establishment of illegal settlements, illegal gold panning and poaching of endangered birds and animals by Guatemalan civilians within Belizean territory. Quite recently, there was another standoff in the Sarstoon River. This again compels us to urgently negotiate and agree a protocol that covers the Sarstoon River and the Bay of Honduras. In spite of these challenges, we look forward to the definitive and final settlement of the territorial claim, which has for too long prevented the full development of normal relations between the two countries. We will continue to rely on the Office of the OAS in the adjacency zone to assist us in the implementation of the confidence-building measures to reduce tensions along the border. Madam Chair, the Organization of American States plays a critical role in our hemisphere. The four pillars of our organization continues to be the foundation that guides our relations. We need to go back to the fundamental reason why this organization was founded, to bring unity and inclusivity of all member states based on mutual respect, trust, and respect for the principles of international law. The noble purpose of the OAS is to achieve an order of peace and justice, to promote solidarity, to strengthen collaboration, and to defend sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. Belize is committed to continue working with all of you to achieve these laudable goals. Ceaselessly and forever, let's work to build a more just Americas. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this protocol meeting. I thank you all for attending. At this time, respecting social distancing guidelines, I ask all of those present to greet the Prime Minister individually, starting with the delegation closest to the exit. Please rise from your seats to greet the Honorable Prime Minister of Belize. I thank you all very much for attending. The meeting is adjourned.